chosen one. Something happened 3 hours ago. You did not feel it. You were not watching. You may have been doing something completely ordinary, making coffee in a quiet kitchen, sitting in traffic with the radio low, staring at the ceiling in the long minutes before sleep finally came. You were not watching, but God was. And 3 hours ago, something moved. Before I say anything else tonight, before we look closely at what happened, before we name what she built and how it is now collapsing, I need you to hold one truth in your hands, not as a verse, not as a theological concept to file away, but as something that just became real for you, something that has just shifted in the unseen realm with your name on it. The woman who built the plan to destroy you, she does not know it yet. She may be sleeping right now. She may be scrolling through her phone, checking to see if her campaign is still producing fruit. She may be sitting with the people she recruited and watching what she built with a quiet, cold satisfaction. She does not know it yet, but the trap is already closed. Not on you, but on her. I want to take you back to a moment, not a moment in your life, in hers, to the specific moment she made a decision, not an emotional outburst, not a reaction pulled from the raw center of grief. This was something colder, something more deliberate, something that required her to sit still and choose with clear eyes to destroy. She did not trip into this. She walked into it, one careful step at a time. She looked at what she knew about you, the access she had been given, and she decided to weaponize it. Think about what you gave her. Not gifts, not things. Something far more precious. You gave her your context. You gave her your history. You gave her the versions of yourself you do not show to the world. The struggling version, the version that made mistakes and came back trying to do better, the version that had not yet fully arrived at the person you are becoming. You gave her those things in the dark, in quiet moments, in conversations that happened late at night when the walls were down and trust felt like safety. She received all of it, and she made an inventory, not written down anywhere you could find, but stored, sorted, organized. Like a general cataloging the weak points of a fortress months before the siege is launched. She sat with what she knew about you, and she decided it could be repurposed, that your growth could be displayed as evidence of your defect, that your transparency could be exhibited as proof of your instability, that the mercy you extended, the grace you offered, could be twisted into weakness, into complicity, into guilt. And then it began, quietly at first, a message here, a conversation there, casual enough to sound like genuine concern, careful enough to land exactly where she intended. She did not go to a public stage to accuse you. That would have been too obvious, too easy to dismiss. Instead, she went private. She went precise. She identified the people whose opinions carry the greatest weight in your world, the ones whose distance would hurt the most, the colleagues who could affect your professional life, the mutual friends who occupy the center of your shared social landscape, the family members who had always been neutral but whose neutrality she could corrupt. And she went to them with the posture of a wounded witness. She did not look like someone attacking. She looked like someone confiding. She wrapped the poison in the packaging of vulnerability. She dressed the accusation in the costume of shared pain. And people believed her because she was convincing, because she had the details, because she had the context that only intimacy provides. Think about the moment you first felt the shift. Not when you understood it, when you felt it. Before the screenshots arrived, before the forwarded message came in from the friend who still cared, before your mind had assembled the pieces into a recognizable shape, there was a morning when something was different. A conversation that felt slightly wrong, slightly too careful, slightly too measured. A response that came a second too late. A look that moved away before it should have. You told yourself you were imagining it. You did not want to believe that this was already happening. So you sat with it alone, in your car, in the parking lot, before you went in, gripping the steering wheel with both hands, breathing slowly, asking God the question you had been asking for weeks. How long? How long will this continue? How long before someone sees what is actually happening? You went home and you drafted the messages, the ones that would have corrected the record, the ones that would have provided the full picture, the context she had so carefully trimmed away. You typed the paragraphs. You gathered the screenshots. You prepared your case. And then you stopped. Something in you said, not like this. Not in her arena. Not with her rules. Not lowering yourself to the same instrument of warfare she chose to use. You deleted the draft. And you chose silence. Not the silence of defeat. The silence of strategy. The silence of someone who knows they are not the one who needs to win this argument. C.S. Lewis, writing in The Problem of Pain, wrote something that I believe God placed in his hands specifically for this moment. He wrote, God, who foresaw your tribulation, has specially armed you to go through it, not without pain, but without stain. Not without pain. Let those words sit. He is not promising you a painless season. He is not telling you that what she did not cost you. It cost you in relationships, in reputation, in the quiet, daily grief of losing people who should have known better, in the exhaustion of walking into rooms where her version of you has already arrived before you, in the loneliness of being misunderstood by people who once called you friend. But here is the other half of that promise. Not without stain. While the pain arrived, the stain did not, because you made different choices than she did. While she was engineering your destruction, you were protecting your integrity. While she was building a case against you, you were building your character. While she was spending every reserve of energy trying to drag you into the mud, you were spending yours choosing not to go. And that single difference, that daily, quiet, costly difference in the choosing, is what helped set this turning point in motion. Because there is a law woven into the architecture of reality, not invented by any church, not contingent on anyone's belief in it, not negotiable by charm or intelligence or social capital. It operates like gravity, quietly, continuously, without announcement. What is built on truth stands. What is built on lies collapses. Always, without exception. The only variable is the timing, and timing belongs to God, not to the one who launched the campaign, not to the one who gathered the audience, not to the one who built the structure with such painstaking care. Timing belongs to God, who sees the foundation no human eye can inspect. And 3 hours ago, he found the crack. It was the crack that had always been there, built into the structure the moment she chose lies over truth. The collapse began, not with a public announcement, not with drama, quietly, the way a fault line shifts beneath the surface long before the earthquake is visible from the street. But God sees the fault line, and He has already begun to move. If you can feel the weight of this truth tonight, if something in your spirit is rising right now, recognizing this as your own story, type the word justice in the comments below. Do it right now, not for the algorithm, not for visibility, as an act of faith, as a declaration to the spiritual realms that you are no longer in her courtroom, that you are standing in a different court, that the judge has already reviewed every piece of evidence and he has not forgotten you. Chosen one. I want to slow down here. I do not want to rush past this, because what she built deserves to be examined, not to give it more power, not to hand it any more of your attention than it has already stolen, but because understanding the architecture of the attack is what dismantles the fear surrounding it. What she created was not chaos. Chaos is random. Chaos does not require planning. What she built was an engineered structure, a deliberate construction, brick by brick, conversation by conversation, message by message, one relationship at a time. She did not wake up one morning and explode. She woke up one morning and sat down at a table, perhaps metaphorically, perhaps literally, and she planned. She asked herself a specific question. Not, how do I express my pain? Not, how do I move on from this? She asked, what is the most effective way to ensure that they cannot move forward either? That question is the blueprint of everything that followed. The first architectural decision she made was about audience selection. She did not go public. Public accusations are too visible, too easy to audit, too easy for reasonable people to dismiss as the bitter complaints of someone processing a breakup. Instead, she went private. She curated her audience. She made a mental list of the people in your life whose opinion carries the heaviest weight on your sense of belonging, the friend whose voice you trust most, the colleague who sits in meetings where your future is discussed, the community member whose endorsement opens doors and whose doubt closes them. She moved toward each of them with the specific knowledge of why they mattered to you. She knew which relationships would leave the deepest wound if they grew distant. She started there. When she arrived at each of those relationships, she did not arrive angry. She did not arrive with visible venom. She arrived looking wounded. She arrived looking as though speaking these things at all was costing her something precious. She used phrases like, I would not normally say anything, but I care about you too much to stay silent. Or, I have been carrying this for so long. I just needed someone I could trust. Or, I'm not trying to start anything. I just think you deserve to know. Each of those phrases was a deliberate form of emotional positioning. They said, I am trustworthy. They said, I am reluctant. They said, I am doing this out of love. And in doing so, she turned the listener into an unwitting participant. Because now the listener felt they'd been trusted with something precious. Now the listener felt a responsibility to carry what they had been given. The information transferred, and with it, a subtle shift in how your name sounded in their mouth. Here is the most dangerous element of what she constructed. She did not fabricate everything. A fully invented story is fragile. A fully invented story collapses the moment it meets someone who knows the actual facts. So she did not invent. She curated. She took real events, real moments, real conversations, real things that actually happened between you, and she displayed them without their context. She removed the before. She removed the circumstances that explain why something happened. She removed the years of patience you extended before you finally responded. She removed the dozens of times you tried to repair what she was simultaneously destroying. She took the reaction and presented it as the cause. She took the moment you finally responded and presented it as the moment you began. And because the events were real, because people could find no reason to doubt the facts she presented, they accepted the frame she built around those facts as the true interpretation. That is the architecture of a half-truth. It is the most perverse form of dishonesty because it gives the listener enough reality to believe the distortion. And then came the final layer, the one that gave her campaign its reach and its momentum. She did not deliver every message herself. That would have exhausted her. That would have kept the scale of the campaign limited to what one person could manage. Instead, she trained others, not with explicit instructions, but through the strategic sharing of her narrative. She told the story to enough people that eventually they began to tell it themselves. These secondary messengers believed they were helping her. They believed they were standing up for someone who had been wronged. They believed they were protecting a community from someone dangerous. What they did not know was that they were working from incomplete information. What they did not know was that they had been given a map of a city that had been drawn by someone who had very specific reasons for leaving certain streets off the map. They became messengers carrying a story they had not witnessed. They became soldiers fighting in a war they did not understand. And they carried your name in conversations you were not in rooms you never entered, in spaces where the verdict was reached before you ever had a chance to speak. But here is what she did not understand. Here is what the architect of every smear campaign fails to account for. The very precision of what she built is the evidence of her intent. An innocent person in pain does not spend months engineering a coordinated narrative across multiple circles of relationship. An innocent person in pain does not carefully select audiences and craft emotional positioning before each delivery. An innocent person in pain does not recruit secondary messengers and train them, however implicitly, to carry the story forward. Innocent grief does not build systems. Innocent grief collapses. Innocent grief is messy and loud and contradicts itself and eventually exhausts itself. What she built was not grief. What she built was a machine. And machines require engineers. And every engineer leaves fingerprints. The fingerprints are on the architecture. God has seen them from the beginning. And the people she recruited, some of them are starting to see them too. The questions are beginning. The small inconsistencies are surfacing. The moments where her version refuses to match someone else's memory are becoming too frequent to explain away. And when the first witness begins to question the story they were given, everything built on top of that story begins to lean. You do not need to push. You never needed to push. The weight of her own construction is doing the work. Chosen one. There is a question you have been carrying. You have not spoken it out loud to many people, perhaps not to anyone, because it feels too vulnerable to release into the open air, because it sounds like doubt, and you do not want anyone to hear doubt in your voice. But you have asked it in the dark. You have asked it in the car on the way home, from a meeting where someone looked at you differently because of what she said. You have asked it into the ceiling at 2 a.m., when the weight of all of it was too dense to carry into sleep. The question is this: God, why did you let it go this far? That is not a small question. Do not rush past it. Do not sanitize it into something more palatable. It is a raw question. It is an honest question. It is the kind of question that God does not flinch at, because He already heard it long before you found the courage to form it into words. You watched her move through your life with what felt like impunity. You watched the campaign grow. You watched relationships cool and distance form and silence settle in places where warmth used to live. And you prayed. You did not go passive. You brought this to God. You laid it at His feet more times than you can count. You asked for protection. You asked for exposure of the truth. You asked for vindication. And for a season, nothing visible changed. The campaign continued. The silence continued. The isolation continued. And in those stretches of no visible movement, you had to ask the question, God, are you seeing this? God, why are you allowing this to continue? God, where are you in this? Here is what I want you to understand. What looks like God's absence from a distance is often His most concentrated presence when seen up close. He was not watching your situation from the far end of heaven, distracted by larger concerns, waiting for a more convenient moment to intervene. He was present in every moment of every conversation she had about you. He was in the room. He was listening. He was cataloguing every detail. He was building a file that no human court has access to. He did not miss a single message she sent. He did not miss a single relationship she altered in your world. He did not miss a single tear that fell in private, yours or anyone else's. His silence was not absence. His patience was not indifference. His delay was not negligence. He was building something. He is always building something. And what He builds requires time, not because He lacks power, but because what He builds is meant to last. Here is the thing about trials of this specific nature. Trials where someone deliberately targets your character. Trials where the accusation is personal and the audience is intimate and the damage is real. These trials do not just test what you are made of. They reveal what you are made of to you, not just to God. He already knew. To you. Before this happened, you had certain beliefs about yourself. Beliefs about how you would respond under pressure. Beliefs about how much silence you could hold when everything in you wanted to speak. Beliefs about whether your integrity was real or whether it was simply untested. This trial tested every one of those beliefs. And what you discovered in the silence, in the restraint, in the choice not to retaliate, is that the integrity was real. You found out who you actually are, when who you are is under attack. That is a discovery you could not have made in a comfortable season. Comfort does not reveal character. Pressure reveals character. And God needed you to know what He already knew about you from the inside. Every time she sent a message and you did not respond with a counterattack, every time someone in your world looked at you with slightly cooler eyes, and you chose grace instead of confrontation, every time the urge to expose her rose up in your chest like a wave, and you let it pass without acting on it. Those moments were not weakness, they were evidence. They were evidence of a character her campaign could attack but could never reproduce. She could accuse you of things, but she could not do what you did. She could not sit in the center of a targeted attack and maintain her integrity under fire. She could not hold her tongue when silence was the harder choice. She could not absorb the loss of relationships without reaching for a weapon. Your silence was your most powerful testimony, and God was watching it every moment, every choice. Every time you chose the harder right over the easier wrong, it is all in the file, not just hers, yours. And your file tells a very different story. See, S. Lewis once wrote something that cuts to the exact distinction you need to hold tonight. He wrote, "It is not your business to succeed, but to do right. When you have done so, the rest lies with God." Read that again slowly. It is not your business to succeed. Your business, your assignment is to do right. You are not responsible for the outcome. You are not responsible for how many people believed her. You are not responsible for how long the vindication takes. You are not responsible for managing the timeline of justice. Your assignment was never to win the argument. Your assignment was to hold your integrity through the argument. And you have done that, day after day, choice after choice. In rooms where the verdict was already against you, you did right. That is your part, and you have done it. Now the rest, the exposure, the reversal, the restoration of what was damaged, the rest lies with God. And what lies with God does not lie there forgotten. It lies there in the hands of the most precise, thorough, and unstoppable force in the universe. If you believe but God has been seeing every moment you chose right when wrong would have been easier, type God. Sees in the comments right now, not as a performance, as a declaration, as a statement to the spiritual realm that you know even in this season that felt invisible, you were seen. Every single moment you were seen, chosen one. There is a law she did not account for. She built her entire campaign without factoring in this one variable. Not because she was unintelligent, not because she lacked strategy, but because this particular law operates below the level that human strategy can reach. It is not a law written in a legal code. It is not enforced by a judge wearing robes or a court with a bailiff and a gavel. It is a law woven into the very substance of creation itself. The Apostle Paul wrote it plainly in Galatians 6:7. God is not mocked. Whatever a man sows, that he will also reap. Read that phrase at the beginning. God is not mocked. Not God is rarely mocked. Not God is hard to mock. Not God prefers not to be mocked. God is not mocked. The architecture of reality itself does not permit it. When someone sows deception, the harvest is deception. When someone sows betrayal, the harvest is betrayal. When someone builds their foundation on the suffering of another, they are building their foundation on sand that will eventually shift. She sowed a campaign of destruction. She planted seeds of false accusation in every relationship she entered. She watered them with manufactured vulnerability and cultivated them with sustained dishonesty. And the harvest is coming. It does not ask permission. It does not wait for convenient timing. It arrives exactly when the sowing is complete. And the sowing is complete. Here is the mechanical reason why what she built is already failing. A lie is inherently unstable. It is unstable not only morally, but structurally. A lie requires maintenance. A lie requires constant, active attention to keep it from collapsing under the weight of reality. Think about what maintaining a lie requires. You must remember exactly what you told each person. You must track which version of the story you gave to which audience. You must monitor every new relationship that person forms to ensure the truth cannot enter through them. You must intercept every conversation that might produce a comparison of notes. It is exhausting work, and it is work that never ends, because the truth is not exhausted. The truth does not require maintenance. The truth simply waits. Every day that passes is one more day for a contradiction to emerge, one more opportunity for someone to notice that the story does not quite line up with what they know from another source. One more moment for a witness to ask a question that cannot be answered without introducing another lie. The structure she built was not built to last. It was built to buy time. And time is running out. When I said that something happened 3 hours ago, I was not speaking metaphorically. I was pointing to a real shift that takes place in the spiritual realm when the accumulated weight of dishonesty exceeds what the structure can bear. Think of it as a dam. For months, perhaps years, the dam held. The pressure built behind it. The lies required more lies. The contradictions required more covering. The people she recruited began noticing that their information did not fully match what others were saying. And then a crack. Not a catastrophic failure yet. Just a crack. Invisible from the outside, but felt by the one who built the dam. She felt it. Maybe in a conversation that went differently than she expected. Maybe in a message she sent that did not receive the response she was counting on. Maybe in the sudden coolness of someone she thought was fully in her camp. The crack is not the collapse, but the crack is the announcement that the collapse is coming. And God has seen the crack, and He is allowing the water to press against it. Now here is the part that will take the most courage to receive. Everything she did, every message sent, every relationship poisoned, every quiet slander deployed, God allowed it. Not because He approved of it, not because He was passive, not because He had abandoned you, but because He is a Father who refuses to let your suffering be wasted. He took what was designed to crush you and He used it to compress you. And what happens when something valuable is placed under the right amount of compression? It does not crumble. It crystallizes. It becomes harder, more refined, more precisely shaped for the purpose it was always meant to serve. The version of you that existed before this trial could not carry what is coming. The version of you that exists right now, the one who has held silence under fire, who has chosen right over revenge, who has learned what it means to trust God in a season that gave every reason not to, that version of you is being prepared for something she will never be able to reach. C.S. Lewis, in The Problem of Pain, wrote something that illuminates this with profound clarity. He wrote, "God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. In your comfortable seasons, God was whispering. You could hear him, but perhaps only just. Perhaps with the background noise of a life that felt manageable. But in this season, he has been shouting, not in anger, in urgency, not because he is frustrated with you, because he has been trying to get through to the deepest parts of you that only open under pressure. The pain of what she did became the megaphone, not because God sent her to hurt you, but because he is a God who wastes nothing, who takes every instrument of harm and repurposes it into an instrument of revelation. What has he been saying through the megaphone? He has been saying, you are stronger than you believed. You are more trustworthy than you knew. You are being prepared for a room that requires exactly the character this trial has been building in you. After this moment tonight, the way you see her campaign changes. You stop seeing it as something that was done to you. You begin seeing it as something that was done through you and ultimately for you. That does not mean it was not painful. That does not mean she was right to do it. That does not erase the cost. But it means that nothing was lost. Not permanently, not finally, not in the economy of a God who turns every closed door into a different kind of opening. She thought she was ending your chapter. She was actually turning the page. Chosen one. Stay with me here, because this is where everything turns. This is the part of the story that she did not write into her plan. She planned for your response. She planned for your silence. She planned for your isolation. She even planned for your pain. But she did not plan for this. There is a verse in Psalm 7:15, 1:6 that I want to lay before you tonight. The wicked conceive evil and are pregnant with trouble. They give birth to lies. They dig a deep pit to trap others, then fall into it themselves. They dig the pit. They set the trap. They prepare the snare. And then they fall into it themselves. This is not a metaphor designed to comfort the wounded. This is the description of a spiritual mechanism that operates with the precision of physics. Every trap built on deception contains within it the seeds of its own collapse. Not because someone external dismantles it, because the structure of a lie is inherently unable to support the weight of sustained performance. She built a trap for you. She dug a pit carefully. She laid it with precision and patience. She covered it so it would be invisible to the people she wanted to fall in with you. But the pit is hers now. Let me describe what is happening in the practical, visible landscape of her situation. The people she recruited are beginning to compare what they were told. The two versions of the same event, the one she told to person A and the slightly different version she told to person B, are beginning to collide. When two people compare their separate conversations with her and discover that the details do not quite align, a question forms, a quiet question, a question they may not speak out loud immediately, but it is there. And questions of that kind do not disappear on their own. They grow. They attract other questions. They invite closer examination of other moments that felt slightly off, but were never examined in full daylight before. At the same time, your silence is beginning to work in your favor in ways it could not have worked earlier. Your refusal to retaliate, which she interpreted as weakness, is now beginning to be reinterpreted. People who watched you navigate this season with restraint and dignity are starting to ask a different set of questions. Not, is what she said true? But, why would this person respond with such restraint if the accusations were true? People with something to hide rarely hold back, protect others, or absorb accusations without counterattacking. Your response was not the response of someone with something to hide. Your response was the response of someone who knew their God was watching and trusted that He was more than enough. There is something else you did not know was happening behind the scenes. While she was strategically building her audience, God was also building an audience, not with a strategy, with grace, with positioning through the sovereign placement of specific people in specific locations at specific times. People who had information she did not know they had. People who had witnessed moments that her narrative could not account for. People who knew you from angles she had never had access to. These people were not gathered in a room. They were not organized. They were not even aware of each other in most cases. But God knew where every one of them was. And He has been positioning them so that when the moment arrives, the full picture has witnesses on every side. The truth does not need an army. It needs the right witnesses in the right places. And God places witnesses with a precision no human strategy can match. When the collapse becomes visible, and it will, something important will be illuminated. Not just what she did, but the difference between who she is and who you have become through this season. She spent the last months building a campaign. You spent the last months being built. She organized other people against you. God organized something inside you. She invested her energy in your reputation. You invested yours in your character. And reputation is external. It can be damaged. It can be questioned. It can be manipulated by someone with enough access and motivation. But character is internal. Character cannot be touched by the loudest campaign, the most coordinated accusation, the most strategic deployment of half-truths. What you have right now is something she spent all her energy trying to take from you, yet never touched. Your character is intact. Your integrity is intact. Your relationship with God is intact. And those things, those untouchable things, are the very foundation of what comes next for you. C.S. Lewis wrote something that belongs in this exact moment. He wrote, "Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. You have been in preparation, not punishment, preparation." The hardship was not the proof that God had abandoned you. It was the evidence that He was taking your destiny seriously enough to make sure you were ready for it. Ordinary seasons produce ordinary people. Extraordinary destinies require extraordinary preparation. And extraordinary preparation looks like exactly what you have been living. The trial, the false accusation, the season of holding integrity when everything in you wanted to respond differently, the quiet faithfulness in a season where no one was watching except God. He was watching. He is always watching. And what He saw in you through this fire is what convinced Him that you are ready for the next room. Chosen one, the season is turning. The relationships that cooled are not all lost. Some of them are about to receive new information that will change the temperature. The doors that closed are not all permanently shut. Some of them closed because the right thing was not yet on the other side. The season of invisibility you have been living was not rejection, it was protection. It was the season of preparation before the season of manifestation. And manifestation is coming, not loudly, not dramatically. In the same quiet way, divine justice often moves beneath the surface, beyond human calculation, with a precision that leaves no room for doubt about who orchestrated it. You are not at the end of your story. You are at the end of the trial chapter. And the next chapter belongs to you, chosen one. I want to bring you to a place of stillness now. Not the stillness of defeat, not the stillness of someone who has given up, the stillness of someone who has been through the fire and discovered that the fire could not consume what God placed inside them. Take a breath, a slow breath. Let the weight of what you have been carrying settle not onto your shoulders, but onto the one who said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Before I speak over who you are, let me say clearly who you are not. You are not the person she described. You are not the caricature she assembled from your most vulnerable moments and displayed without context. You are not the sum of her accusations. You are not defined by the distance of those who believed her. You are not limited by the damage she tried to do to your relationships, to your reputation, to your sense of self. Her version of you was not about you. It was about her fear of what you carry, her fear of what you represent, her fear of what God has placed inside you that she recognized and could not tolerate. Because people who are at peace with themselves do not build campaigns against others. People who are walking in love do not engineer the destruction of those they once called close. What she built was never really about you. It was the shape of her own wound turned outward. And you are not responsible for carrying that shape. You never were. Now let me speak over what you actually are. You are someone God has not abandoned. You are someone God has not overlooked. You are someone who walked through a season that was specifically designed to disqualify you, and you are still standing. That is not nothing. That is everything. You are a chosen one. Not because life has been easy, not because the path has been clear, not because you have done everything right or never made mistakes, but because in the middle of the hardest season, you kept choosing God. You kept choosing right. You kept choosing to trust when trust required everything you had. That kind of choosing is not common. That kind of faithfulness under that kind of pressure is what God calls rare. And rare things are treated differently. Rare things are protected differently. Rare things are prepared for assignments that common seasons could never reach. I want to declare something over your life tonight, not as a wish, not as an encouragement, as a prophetic word anchored in the unchanging character of a God who has never broken a promise. What she tried to take from you is being returned. Some of the relationships she damaged are being repaired even now, in conversations you are not in hearts that are reconsidering what they were told. God is opening different doors from the ones she tried to close, doors she does not have the key to, doors that were never part of her architecture, doors that lead somewhere she could never have imagined for you because she did not know what God knows about your future. The seasons of invisibility are ending. The season of preparation is reaching completion. And what has been prepared in secret is about to be revealed in the open. Not because you fought for it, because God fought for it. And He is a better fighter than any opponent you will ever face. Let me pray with you now. Father, you see this one. You have seen them through every moment of this season. You saw every tear. You heard every question asked in the dark. You were in every room where her version of them arrived before they did. And you were not moved. You were not confused. You were not uncertain about who they are, or what they carry, or what you have prepared for them. I ask you tonight to complete what you began, to vindicate openly what you have already affirmed in secret, to restore what was taken, to open what was closed, to return what was stolen with restoration and increase, with the weight of a divine reversal that cannot be explained except by your hand. Let this one rise, not into the life she imagined for them, into the life you designed for them, a life that has always been too large for anyone else to see fully, except you. In the name of the one who can turn every pit into a platform, amen. If you receive something tonight, if this word found the part of you that has been carrying this alone type, I am free, in the comments right now. Not because the situation has fully resolved yet, but because you are no longer bound by the fear that it might not. You know now who is moving behind the scenes. You know now who has seen every moment. You know now who is holding the timeline. And that knowledge, that settled, unshakable knowledge, is freedom. If this message was meant for you, share it with someone else tonight who needs to hear it. Someone who is in the middle of their own silent season. Someone who is sitting under the weight of someone else's accusations. This message belongs to them too. And if you are new here, if you found this tonight because God wanted you to find it, subscribe, stay. Because every week we come back to this place and we speak truth into the hardest seasons. You are not alone. You were never alone. And the God who moved 3 hours ago is still moving. He has not forgotten you, and He never will.